Welcome to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I am the host of this show. I have the honor of hosting the show every single week and bringing on very special guests. I have my monthly co-host with me, Dr. Sunji Phillips from Bryson Associates. She is here joining us again. Hi, Dr.
Hello.
Sunji. How are you?
I am well. I'm well.
That's good. I wish I could say that. I'm a little bit stressed because we'll have to vote.
Oh.
That's been really, really stressing me out.
Yes.
Maybe I'm just because I'm a senior and I'm at that age. But the good news about voting, and I just want to touch on that a little bit, is we have early voting in Connecticut now. So what that means is that even you can vote early every single day up until November 3rd, I believe.
So wait, okay, help me out. So like, is there like one dedicated center that you go to that's just open 24 hours for voting? Is that how that works?
It's not 24 hours, no.
Okay.
So for example, here in Stratford, Connecticut, there is one location that you need to go to register and do the early voting. And that is the Baldwin Center.
Okay.
Okay, it's at 1000 Main Street, I believe, or the Baldwin Center. So for every town, they have that one specific location that you can go to.
Okay.
And you can register, you can vote. And they have people there to explain all of the instructions on early voting, because I don't know how to do it. If I walked in, I would need somebody to walk me through.
Right.
To come in. You have to produce your identification, a picture ID. If you need to register, you got to produce a picture ID, and I believe proof of residency, which is normally like a tax bill, UI bill, or something like that.
Your driver's license?
To register. Yeah, your license too. There's two pieces to register: your photo ID.
Got you.
Which is usually mostly their license. But just to vote, all you need is your license with your address to prove that you live in Stratford.
Okay.
So if you work in Stratford and you live in Trumbull and you figure, let me run over to the Baldwin Center and do my early voting, nope, you can't do that. You have to do it in the town that you live in, that you sleep in, lay your head in, whatever.
Okay.
So that's one thing about that. You got to sign the envelope once you put your ballot in, and then it's sealed, and it's not counted until November 5th. And you have to sign and date the outside of the envelope, okay? And then there's a Democrat and a Republican from each party to count the number of envelopes received on that day, and they're put in a box, and the number has to correlate with the number of envelopes that's in there when they pull it out on election day, just to debunk any disinformation, misinformation.
Right.
So I like that fact that we have the early voting, because you can get sick, or you may have to work, or you may have to babysit. So you have the opportunity to come and vote early, or we can have a storm, or you just don't know.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. So that's one good thing that we could do. But me, I'm going to wait until election day.
The excitement
of it. If I'm sick, I am going to drag myself out of bed and get down there.
Yeah. I'm that person that leaves a Christmas gift until, those few days before Christmas.
Yep.
So the excitement of going out and, the bells and yeah.
So, and another thing I want to mention, I have two sons. They're millennials. They, for some reason, are convinced that their vote doesn't count. Well, one of them is anyway. And I bribed him into voting and registering anyway. But that's your only voice that you have. Every vote counts.
Absolutely.
So, if you don't vote, don't complain about anything. Would be my
that
opinion.
happens after. Absolutely.
But I would say look over the candidates, look at all the different news stations, and if their policies are in line with your standards, then I would say that would be the person that you want to vote for. And you have choices, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'm
I
not going to
agree.
tell you who to vote for, and I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for. But I think, you know, it's important to exercise your right. You know, there's a lot of people that fought a long time to even get the right to vote and died too over doing that,
Absolutely.
and went to jail and, you know,
Absolutely.
sacrificed their families and a whole bunch of things. So the least we could do is honor their efforts and vote. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely, you know, when we look back over the way things were, you know, from years ago to where we've come to, you know, we still have a long way to go. But
Not me, I'm there. No. I'm ahead of all the rest.
you know, we all have a way to go before we get to that place of perfection. But you know, it's like, let's continue to build. So many times I feel like if we don't remember where we came from, we can't build to get to the next level. So we continue starting over, just starting over. You know, so I'll take what indigenous people or you know, minority people, you know, from where we've come from so many years ago, and what we fought for women, what we fought for. Let's not go backwards. Let's continue.
I wonder
to
where she
build.
heard that from.
Is that Kamala? And
That's exactly
That's what she said?
what she says. We're not going back, we're going forward. So
Okay,
we
I'm
don't
loving
endorse anybody on this station,
Yeah.
but you know,
But
like
it's
I
the
said,
truth. Let
Yeah.
me say that it's the truth.
Right. See,
What
she didn't
you-
even know that, so
No.
you're just speaking your opinion.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. But no, it is. It's the absolute truth. We have to learn to continue to build, and I mean that in every sense. You know, like I work with kids with developmental disabilities. We've come so far in our discovery about autism and disabilities. You know, like, let's not go backwards. Let's take what we've learned and continue to build. Let's do it in socioeconomic climates. Let's do it in terms of races and cultures. And, you know, we've got to get better and
We
not
do.
go backwards. So,
And you know what I think? I think that you make a really good point way back when. So the thing with millennials are they didn't have that struggle. You know, millennials, you're like 30, you have no idea what it's like to struggle. You were born with the gifts that, you know, your grandparents did. You're living the trail that they cut, so you would not have to struggle as they did, as she mentioned, way back when.
yeah.
And so, having said that, it's somewhere, I'm not going to say you guys are all taking it for granted, but you just didn't live that hardship, and you just don't have a full understanding of that struggle and
Right.
that pain and that sacrifice that came along with, you know, voting, for example, is what we're talking
Yeah.
about. And I think it's hard for them to understand that.
Right. I think in some ways, our millennial generation, it's almost as though they began the world. You know, and
How so? What do you mean?
because growing up as a kid, I was constantly reminded by my mother and my grandmother about where they came from, about what their lives were like, about the struggle. You know, it was a constant. It was something that we talked about, we sat down and we discussed often. Now, when I raised my children, and I think many people in my generation, when we raised our children, we didn't raise them the same way. We kind of said, you know, everything that I didn't have, I want to make sure that my kid had. My kid is never going to be without. I'm going to make sure that they have. I'm going to make sure, you know, and I'm not going to stress them with these things. I'm never going to yell at my kids. I'm not going to beat my kids.
I ain't say that. They got beaten and I screamed at them.
But we did our children a disservice because now we've raised this almost entitled generation of children who they believe that the most important thing or the most important person is them and what they feel and how they feel about things. I don't want to feel like I'm beating down on any generation, or like I don't want to go in that direction. But I believe in allowing our children to know where we came from. I think that was valuable for my generation, because it taught us lessons that we were not going to see. So things that we did in my generation, we did not because we faced it, but we did it because our mother had to deal with this. We did it because our grandmother had to deal with it. Like my children, I haven't seen them acclimate themselves in any way because of what I went through. Like they began their lives as anew, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to walk here, I'm going to walk there, not taking the lessons that I, as a parent, am giving them to kind of steer them. And when I speak to so many other parents in my generation, it's like we all got the same kid. We all got the same kids. We're dealing with the same issues.
I feel a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 children, and one of them, he was on punishment all the time. And he got, I hit him with the belt, and I gave him on timeout. I told them, and you're right about, let me back up a little bit. You're right about wanting to give them everything I didn't have, and I did those things. But I still held back on some things. Like I never gave them an allowance because I never got an allowance. I'm like, you're going to earn everything that you have. You can ask my kids to this day, they was in high school, they still got no allowance. And other kids picked on them and things like that, because I feel like money is addicting.
Mm-hmm.
I know people where I grew up at, their parents used to give them money back in the day, and when they didn't give it to them, they stole from them. So that was my thing. I learned kind of like what not to do. I did not let them have that much freedom. They had to stay in the house almost all the time because I feared what was out there. And then I told them, they didn't live the life that I lived, but I told them the stories about the life I lived. And yeah, they thought it was funny at first, but now that they're adults, I think they understand it a little bit more. But yeah, they're pretty much the same kids. They're very opinionated, and they think that if they're right, that would hold water. In some cases, it will not. So we know that it won't. And those are just some of the things that I did differently. And I'm sure every parent did some things differently.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that you can still do things differently. You can still give them all these things and still raise them with a sense of ownership as well.
Right. One of the things that I know that I've said to my kids is, in life you can take that direct road. You can take, what I don't know if I call it the easy road, but you can take that direct road, and that's where you can, leave from high school, you can go to college, go to another college, go away. That extends your youth. And I did explain that to my children.
And I didn't have that, yeah.
Yeah, when you go away to college, you extend your youth because you're still seen as a kid, and and everyone around you, right. Everyone around you still sees you as a kid, and she's in college. She's a great kid. When you don't go to college, what I say to my kids is we're all gonna end up in the same place. Some may take the long road, and others may take that direct road. So for each of, for kids that go to college, you come out of college after 4 years, you have your degree, and you start your career, at I don't know, not entry level, but supervisory, management, clinical level. Someone that doesn't go to college, they may begin their journey from that entry level, and they got to work their way up. So they got to work those 5 years, those 6 years, 7 years. Then they, get to go up to the second level of supervisor. Then they get to go. So the place that the college student comes out in 4 years, it may take the one who didn't go to college 10 years to get there.
Exactly.
So you're kind of prolonging your life, but then you're also thrown into adulthood right after high school. That's huge. That's huge.
Paying bills. bills, when those bills are very real, and that's when reality hit, and that's when you know, okay, I made the wrong decision. I should have went to college.
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
and-
and college, I'm not saying that people that go to college are, are more equipped to deal with life than people that don't, but college, if nothing else, it teaches you discipline.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that college degree means a lot. I think they're more equipped to deal with a lot of things than the person that doesn't have the degree.
It definitely, they're more disciplined. That's the one thing that I
More
find.
educated, they think about their decisions more. Yeah, I think they have a head start.
Yeah, and so, yeah, so then when, yeah.
I mean, what's the purpose of going? You
Yeah.
know? And then you have that select few, like Bill Gates, that didn't go to college, that
Right.
became a millionaire, Microsoft and all that. So it's not for everybody, but for
It's
the
not.
majority of people, I'm going to say at least 80%, if you have that college degree, because I pushed my kids into it. It was like, if you don't go to college, you can no longer live here. That's how bad it was because of where I came from, the way I grew up, and because I didn't complete my education, when I had the opportunity to do that, so it just, and for working a job 20-something years and then losing that job and having to start all over again instead of making a lateral move, that college degree is just, to
Right.
me, it's not the most important thing, but it's up there in the top 3.
Yeah, and that's something else that I've always spoke to my children about, that, if you're not going to get a degree, then get a certificate or get a, and I can't think of the word right now.
Yeah, for
But-
guys, it's easier. They could go to mechanic school, become a mechanic, and
Girls can too. They
Yeah,
can go
they-
to mechanic school, they can go to elevator, they can go to HVAC school.
yeah, they can.
Absolutely. But I want them to have a trade, and that's what I tell them, because otherwise, each time, like what you said, when you leave your job, you're starting over
All
at
over
ground
again.
zero. Without that degree and without that trade, that certificate or whatever that may look like. So it's, it's a real push. When you're looking at life and looking at how it's all being laid out, it's a little bit of a struggle. And like if I had young people in front of me right now watching this, I would say to please listen to those adults that are around you, that have already walked the path that you've walked.
Right.
I've always encamped myself around older people. When I say older people, I mean older people that were like twice my age, because they would speak knowledge into me, and I wouldn't have to worry about making the mistakes that they've already made because I'm listening to what they're saying.
That's right. And I always ask young people questions. For example, the child that got punished all the time, I asked him, I don't know if he was 8, 9, or 10, I forget, so long ago, tell me one thing you don't like about me. Because I knew this kid didn't like me. I was just his worst enemy. I was always tying out or hitting him with a belt or whatever. And this kid actually taught me to listen. And here I am, I don't even think he was 10. He said, the one thing I don't like about you is you never listen to me. And I think I told you the story before. You always have to try to get inside of their head, and you know that as a psychologist, and ask them questions and let them hear themselves either answer it with something stupid or not being able to answer it or whatever, and then I try to fill in, like, okay, what's your goals for the next 3 years? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Or, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Where do you want to be when you grow up? Doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, or whatever. And get their answers. It's just so important, no matter what you think about their answers. It's important to the kids nowadays. We didn't have that chance. It was like, you're gonna do what I say, and that's gonna be it. There's no talking, there was no asking, or any of that. But the kids today, or the millennials that we raise, you have to ask them. And when you do that, you are bridging a gap because you are giving them respect. they're thinking, okay, my son's thinking, okay, so she does care about what I think, no matter how stupid it is. He didn't think it was stupid at that time. I did. So, and you have to give up respect before you get it. Or they're going to be calling you all kind of names behind your back and this, that, and the other. And I did that a second time with the same son when his girlfriend came home. You know, they were in college. Okay, fast forward to college. I'll tell you this whole quick story. And she was a Catholic, and she called herself a good little girl, good little Catholic girl. But she had lied to her family and said she was staying somewhere else. And he asked me if she could stay with us. Now, they already been in college 2-3 years or whatever, and I know there's no supervision there, so they're sleeping together in each other's dorm. I'm not stupid. I know that's happening. So he asked me, can she stay? And I was like, let me think about it. Inside, everything inside said, don't do it, no. You know, that's against, you know, every standard you have. Your mother would kill you if another boy stayed in the same house and slept with you or whatever. And so I had to reason with myself. I said, you know, they're home. She already lied. They're going to be together somewhere. Why not let it be in a safe place and let it be here? I felt sick inside when I said yes. I thought I was going to throw up. But I let him do it. And I told him, I explained to him, I said, this is against everything, you know, I stand for. And, you know, the whole story. And I said, but you guys, you can stay here. Because I didn't know where they're going to end up at. And that was, you know, that gave me a peace of mind, knowing that they were downstairs in a family room. They were so respectful. They knew that I didn't want them to stay together. So, you know, everything was always cleaned up, and she was always helping me cook, and everything was all nicey nice. And they never asked to do it again. And I gained so much more respect for my son just from that. I call it a sacrifice. It was a major sacrifice.
How long did they stay?
She stayed, I think, like 4 days or something.
Oh.
But yeah, it was overnight. They were down there sleeping together. I'm not even going to try to front. It was, I knew they were doing the same thing. They were in college. But I knew that. I'm like, why not? Why would I say no and let them end up with some sleazy hotel or one of his friend's house in New Haven, or God knows what could happen. I figured bad things are going to happen. Let it happen downstairs. I go down there and save them. That was my thinking, so I let it happen. And so you have to give up so much of yourself now that other parents would have been like, I would have been waking up from passing out. I would have been back slapped, bitch slapped, whatever you want to call it, so hard. I would have never even asked that. You know, we knew better because we knew that. Like I stayed with my husband's son. When we weren't husband and we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We went to North Carolina to stay with his mother. I had to sleep with another girl. There was no way I was sleeping with Joe. And we were already living together because we lived together for 5 years before we got married. The very next morning, I was up at the crack of dawn. Everything was packed up. I'm like, we're going to the hotel. You know, because we lived together. So, and
That's
all of that, I remembered all of that. I considered all of that. And I bit the bullet.
That's very, very interesting.
That's very, very wrong.
You know, what it puts me in the mind of is my sister and her then boyfriend. He's her husband now, but her then boyfriend. They came up to New York. They came up to Connecticut to stay with us. And I was just like, you guys can't sleep in the same room. But they had been living together. Yeah. They had been living together. And I'm like, but can't do it here. I'm sorry. You know, and so it's funny how, you know, like.
It's a different generation. You have to take a different approach to accomplish what you want. You're going to give up a lot first. And I can honestly say that enhanced our relationship. We talk about everything. He's always over my house. It opened things wide up. It really did. I bridge, and I'm 32 years older than him. You know, not the average is like 25. I think 32 is a lot, and it just like it made him respect me more because he knew I made that sacrifice. Because I told him I wasn't going to do it at first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So what happened with your sister and her boyfriend?
well, they respected my rules. I want to say
Did
for
they
the most
stay in
part.
the same room or not?
So they stayed maybe for 4 or 5 days, and like at some point I came in and they were all asleep like in the same room. But it was him, it was her, it was my niece and my 2 nephews. He had, his daughter, and I mean they're all one family. They're a blended family now.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, everybody was in the room together. So I was just kind of like.
Wait a minute, they already had kids?
So he had his kids, she had hers.
Oh, okay.
They became a blended family.
Oh,
They are
okay, that's what you
definitely
meant
like
by
the like the Brady
The
Bunch
Brady
right now.
Bunch.
That's exactly what. And it's a lovely family together.
So just pick your poison, I would say. You have to know your children, and your family, and what it takes to bridge the gap, or I wouldn't say go too far, but so look at the whole situation. Like, we already knew they were sleeping together, and we already knew they were doing, having sex because they already had kids. They ain't get here, they ain't buy them. There was no eggs hatched. Well, listen, anyway, this is a nice general conversation. I'm happy with where it ended up at. But listen, I want to just reiterate again, we got like a minute left. Make sure you get out and register and vote.
Absolutely.
Your voice does count. And Dr. Sunji, thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed my day today.
Me too. So this is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.